One thing I really enjoy about seinen animes is its balanced study on the subject matter it's concerned with, similar to the likes of Monster, Kaiba, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. What makes today's anime different, however, is that it tries to tackle sociological philosophy, which isn't rare in animes to be honest. But like Ghost in the Shell, today's anime is adamant on telling you where the ideas are from and why we should educate ourselves with them. Hey guys, I'm Eva Faddis and today, Psychopass. If you haven't seen it, please do. It's an amazing show, which I can safely say is one of the best seinens in modern anime. Plus, today's video will focus on the philosophical issues rather than just a review, so you might not understand this video without watching the show or reading the manga. The question of can we as humanity create a world that is peaceful is an age-old question we haven't fully answered yet. Social scientists provide a set of open-ended and relatively optimistic theories, most that necessitate the mobilization of society as a whole and usually at the cost of individuality, which according to them at its extreme would result in chaos rooted in different minds and subdual of the weak. Both have the good and the bad side, and the current establishment tries to find a balance between them. This is best reflected in legal systems in the dichotomy between public law, representing the group mentality, and private law, personal matters of our own discretion. Hollywood usually depicts this type of societies as totalitarian and cruel in a true populist and capitalist manner. It's not news that free will is dangerous, but it also grounds man's ideological evolution and progression because as people, life without free will and individuality is stagnant and no life at all. A common ground for most would be objective morality. One manifestation of this is religion. In Psychopass, however, it's the sybil system by quantifying morality and the concept infamous for being vague and low, the reasonable man standard. One of the things Psychopass analyzes is if sybil is justified to build this quote-unquote utopia on the grounds of fallacies and silencing revolt. To this point, it has a similar theme to Ergo Proxy, but Psychopass took what was so inciting about Kino's journey and channeled all its analytical power into one society. The sybil system exterminates anyone it deems to be detrimental to society, or what George Orwell so rightly deemed as thought crimes, for just being in a mindset where the possibility of doing something bad is possible. On an outside look, or any poor soul who's watching this video without first watching the show, this system may be appalling and inhumane, more so when you take into account the gruesome manner by which the latent criminals are killed, reminiscent to Akira. The system does its job as crime is an extreme rarity and something most people don't even understand. The system is not good or bad as neutrality is integral to the system, one which extreme measures will be imposed to uphold. For an average citizen, life is good and the masses have no reason not to be content. The system takes away the dilemma of choice most of us struggle with on the daily. The choice of a career is supplemented by sybil presenting an option that fits our aptitude like a glove, and maybe even difficult maze of our personal entanglement is deciphered by sybil recommending a match in account of our traits. Having scientific logic make that decision for us ensures to a large extent that the road is the best option. What makes it even more complicated is that most of the time sybil doesn't force you into accepting what it recommends, but in hindsight the people are so comfortably brainwashed, so they'll probably make the decision sybil wants them to. It mostly understands humanity more than humanity understands itself, that it claims to stand for the common good, but this begs the validity of the common good if the commonality is controlled and the dissent is subdued. The utter dependence on the system's intrusive ways and the loss of that element of excitement that is integral to life both figuratively and literally. It's equal parts freeing and trapping. Sybil is right, but so is Makashima, Akane, and Kagami. It just depends on the perspective and your personal values. The rivalry in the first season is, I think, one of the best I've ever seen. The ideological divide is best portrayed within the narrative, absolute but effective control versus chaos and freedom. The villains present an antithesis to the uniform and utilitarian way of things, deeming a life with no individuality as moot. What is a utopian society if it demands the sacrifice of a person's emotion and ability to express? Makashima strives for the obliteration of the zombie society and progression by chaos, but that is halted by Makashima's own ideology to some extent, manifested in kagami. His stance is further validated by the fact that people are dying from the type type of living that lacks thrill. This is best depicted in Mika's motive, her father, an artist whose work was deemed to be too eccentric as it clouds people's psychopath. And when he started taking mood regulators and lost his passion, he dies inside. Kagami represents a midpoint of these two extremes. Vengeance clouds his judgment, tilting the scale so much that he could not live in a society created by Sybil. So, like Socrates proposed, he left. Akane's answer to Sybil's philosophy is based on the fact that Sybil's purely logical system does not encompass the intent that humanity had for the law. And again, what really is a greater good for a society that cannot speak for itself without being tagged as a latent criminal. Akane believes and shows that more can be done by helping and rehabilitation. She recognizes that the system's proposition is superior and more entrenched as a system that has been implemented for some time now, and that what she is proposing is somewhat of a difficult task to ensue. The system can be improved, which by the end of the first season, it begrudgingly recognizes. I also want to talk about eyes in the show, which play an interesting role of contrast. While both enforcers and suspects are latent criminals, the intent to kill or destruct is apparent. Same goes for whether detective versus the newbie earlier in the show. This puts much into perspective when you notice how the Dominator, which plays the role of Sybil's eyes, has its initiating sequence overlay the detective's eye, seemingly grounding the notion that the detective's eyes are Sybil's eyes. And the animation just goes to support this. Another interesting notion that is subtly injected in the story is how the anti-heroes are defeated by their own ideas. Makashima met his end by Kogami's emotional outburst, one form of individuality he sought for, while Sybil's system was forced to reassess by Akane, someone it itself placed as a detective. Sadly, the special, the second, and the third season don't do much to further this interesting conflict. And while the movie does a slightly better job in its explanation and overall a good anime, it's not nearly as thought-provoking as its starting point. The animation and music are awesome, setting a classical ambiance and almost making the anime a somber discourse and a contrast to the exciting opening. The manner by which Psychopass presents its exposition is amazing. You could reflect on anything that was spoken in the show and find a correlation with either foreshadowing or rhetoric, but I still remember the amazing first episode and the lasting effect it had with its thought-provoking, thrilling narrative, awesome characters, and a weathered and satisfying conclusion that reminded me of the classic and genre-defining anime Ghost in the Shell. So please watch it, subbed or dubbed, it really doesn't matter, even if I preferred it dubbed, if I'm being honest. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!